Around December of 2020, my friend Bria and I were talking about this urge to work on something that wasn't related to school or trying to get involved in a student organization. We wanted to do a personal project together, but what? Between the two of us, we had a bunch of different interests, which ranged from baking to watching YouTube videos to really talking about anything for 4 hours. So then in our conversations, we realized that there were parts of our identities that didn't fit into any particular Asian or Asian American trope. We weren't avid boba consumers, nor were we obsessed with our engineering majors. At this point, our other close friend, Caitlin, joined us, and we continued the conversation of finding what it was that we were seeking. Upon realizing that we were all feeling this way, we realized we wanted to learn about other Asian experiences and how the complexities of their identities shaped their passions today. And that's why we created the Blanket Identity, to be able to share honest stories about the intersection between passion and identity of Asian individuals in the US. Oh, and I realized I should probably introduce myself. My name is Iris Lee, and I make up a third of the Blanket Identity. And in the next couple of minutes, you'll hear all three of us take turns sharing a little bit about the intersections between our passions and identities. And I guess while I'm still talking, I'll go ahead and start. For me, staying active and healthy has been a strong part of my Asian identity. Both my parents went to school in China for physical education with a specific concentration in volleyball. They did not encourage me to pursue sports as a career or anything, but they did want my brother and I to make it a priority to incorporate being active and working out into our everyday lives. Real quick background, my mother was introduced to volleyball by her mother and ended up going to a sports university in Beijing where she met my father, and then fast forward many years, they came to the US where my brother and I were born. Growing up, I remember my dad would go play soccer and volleyball on the weekends with friends in the community, and my mom would take my brother and I to the local gym, and we would run around on the track or swim laps in the pool. This community involvement and connection with my peers eventually translated into joining the volleyball team in school, and my mom getting a new job as a volleyball coach. For me, when I think about volleyball, sports, or activity in general, I think about how it has allowed us to overcome the apparent differences in race and ethnicity and just connect with others. At the same time, though, I can't think about those topics without thinking about my Asian identity. I am not who I am without my parents, who wouldn't have met if it weren't for sports. While they aren't doctors, engineers, or lawyers, they have taught me so much about my culture. I used to associate being cool with being super athletic and definitely not being Asian, but that has proven to be completely false. It's not even about being cool or fitting into some stereotype. It's about celebrating your interests and passions, regardless whether or not that's what's expected of you. For me, my Asian identity would not be what it is without sports or activeness in my life.
Hello, I am Caitlin, and I make up the second third of TBI. I began cooking out of necessity. In 9th grade, with a very pregnant mother, it became my job to start cooking for my family. It started out simple. Rinse the rice and turn on the rice cooker, stir-fry some vegetables, with the failed macaron experiment and some coconut pineapple scones thrown in the mix. Nothing quite tasted like how my mom would make it, but my cooking got the job done. After I moved out from my parents' house and started cooking for myself, I began cooking with more freedom. There was focaccia and pumpkin bread, and Alfredo sauce, but the lactose-free version obviously, and a brief stint of beans. It was soothing, throwing together ingredients and letting my mind wander and ending up with a nice meal. But it took me a little while to try cooking food that my mom used to make at home. Growing up, my Asian food was always something that I was self-conscious of. It made me feel other. But this time, cooking the food after not eating it for so long was a very different experience. The green onion pancakes and red bean soup and chicken soup and peanut butter noodles were all so incredibly comforting and nostalgic. This time, food became a way for me to connect to Chinese culture. My broken Chinese could only get me so far, but food was such an easy way for me to bridge all the cultural gaps. The intersection between food and race and authenticity is so interesting to me as a second-gen Chinese American. I've heard people describe food as tasting of the hands that make it, which I wholly agree with. The food that I make, as hard as I try, never tastes the same as that of my mother's, and I don't think it ever will. We approach food differently, in terms of authenticity and nostalgia and culture. And so, food feels healing in a way to me. After repressing my Chinese part of my identity for so long, food is a way for me to slowly embrace it once again.
Hi, I'm Ria, and I'm the third and final member of the Blanket identity. I'm a big believer in using my time how I want to use it, and that has led me to collecting a lot of hobbies, interests, skills, whatever you want to call it. Let me take you through a quick list of things I love to do. Reading, writing, drawing or painting, trying to play the piano, trying to play the guitar, watching the same TV show again and again, yes, this is a hobby, practicing languages and translation, hitting a personal best on the New York Times crossword, and cooking or baking. You get the point. I like doing things, and I do them because I like them. In some ways, I've had the perfect upbringing to foster all this. As both an only child and an immigrant, I've had a lot of time on my hands, and I enjoy my time alone. Since moving here in the United States, there has been an external pressure, which has occasionally turned into an internal pressure to spend my time doing certain activities that supposedly every Indian does, like classical dance, or music, or kumon, or learning the violin or something. Putting aside the issue of access to such activities, while I enjoy being an observer to a lot of those things, I have my own interests that I've developed, and that's a part of my identity just as much as being Indian is. I never questioned that what I do would determine my Indian identity until the idea was pushed to me. It doesn't determine it though, but it's taken me a while to circle back to that with full confidence. But I'm here now, just as Indian as I've always been. Now that you've met us, we would love to meet you. The Blanket Identity is trying to tell stories of individuals, their passions, and their identities.
If you have a story you want to tell, we want to help share it. There's ways to contact us and get involved in the video description below.
Whether you want to share your story, hear others, or both, we hope you'll join us on this journey.
See y'all soon.